Admiral Thexavia's 4 eyes stared at the holographic display in disbelief. The war room of the Council flagship Eternal Resolve buzzed with confused voices from a dozen different species. Red warning lights flashed across every screen, and the alarm system played its haunting 3-tone warning. Unknown vessels detected, the tactical officer reported, her crystalline body flickering with nervous energy. Slipspace signatures are unstable. Very unstable. Thexvia clicked her mandibles together, a sign of stress among her insectoid people. The Kaldrith Warzone had been her prison for 47 cycles. 47 long cycles of fighting the Vraxian swarm to a bloody stalemate. Every day brought death. Every night brought nightmares of the hive mind's endless ships, and now something new had arrived. How many ships? Thexvia asked. 17. No, 23. Tracking is difficult, Admiral. Their drives are primitive. They're leaking radiation everywhere. Primitive. That word sent a chill through Thexvia's body. The Council had strict laws about pre-FTL species. They were never supposed to encounter war, never supposed to see the horrors of the galaxy before they were ready. Get me a visual, she commanded. The main screen flickered to life. What Thexvia saw made her antenna droop in horror. The ships were barely holding together. Some looked like cargo haulers with weapons welded onto their hulls. Others were clearly military, but their design was ancient by Council standards. They used chemical rockets for maneuvering. Chemical rockets! The Council had abandoned such technology thousands of cycles ago. They're going to die, whispered Commander Vryn, a young avian officer standing beside her. If the swarm finds them, the swarm will find them, Thexvia interrupted. The swarm finds everything in this cursed zone. An ambassador pushed through the crowd of officers. Lyris was from a crystalline species that communicated through light pulses. Her body now flashed urgent red patterns. We must evacuate them immediately. Lyris's translator spoke in a musical tone. Council law is clear. We protect pre-FTL species from galactic conflicts. With what ships? Thexvia snapped. We barely have enough vessels to hold our position. The last supply convoy was destroyed 3 days ago. Before anyone could respond, the communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in a language the translator struggled to process. It was harsh, filled with strange sounds that made some officers flinch. This is Captain Marcus Chen of the USS Indomitable, Terran Expeditionary Force. We received your distress signal approximately 30 standard years ago. We came as fast as we could. How can we help? The war room fell silent. Every officer, every ambassador, every technician stopped what they were doing. Did that primitive just say 30 years? Vryn whispered. Thexvia's mind raced. 30 years ago, the Council had sent an automated probe toward a remote spiral arm. It was supposed to map potential colony worlds. That probe must have malfunctioned and crashed on a pre-FTL world, and these primitives had found it. Captain Chen, Thexvia spoke slowly. This is Admiral Thexvia of the Galactic Council Fleet. You are in extreme danger. This is an active war zone. You must retreat immediately. There was a pause. Then Chen's voice returned, and Thexvia could hear something that sounded like laughter in the background. Admiral, we didn't travel 30 light years to turn around. We analyzed your probe's data. We know you're fighting a war. We know you're losing. Ambassador Lyris flashed angry orange pulses. How dare this primitive? They know nothing of our situation. But Thexvia was studying the data more carefully now. These ships, primitive as they were, carried weapons. Lots of weapons. Missile pods, railguns, even what looked like nuclear warheads. Captain Chen, Thexvia said carefully, how did you develop faster-than-light travel in only 30 years? Another pause. When Chen spoke again, his voice was quieter. We had motivation, Admiral. Your probe's message said you needed help. On Earth, when someone calls for help, we answer. Earth. So that was the name of their world. Your technology is not compatible with ours, Thexvia explained. Your ships are too slow, too fragile. The Vraxian swarm will destroy you in minutes. Then we'll make those minutes count. Thexvia looked at Lyris. The ambassador's light pulses showed confusion and something else. Perhaps respect? Admiral, the tactical officer suddenly called out. Swarm signatures. Multiple contacts dropping from slip space. Distance 4 light minutes and closing fast. The war room exploded into action. Officers ran to their stations. Shields powered up across the fleet. Weapon systems came online. Battle formation Delta, Thexvia commanded. All ships prepare to... Admiral! Chen's voice cut through the chaos. We see them too. Request permission to engage. You don't have permission to commit suicide, Thexvia shouted. We didn't ask for permission to fight, Admiral. We asked for permission to engage. There's a difference. On the screen, Thexvia watched the human ships begin to move. They were slow compared to Council vessels. Their formations were strange, spreading out in patterns that made no tactical sense. What are they doing? Vryn asked. The Vraxian swarm arrived like a plague of locusts. Their bioships were living nightmares, grown rather than built. They pulsed with sickly green light and moved with disturbing organic grace. The Council fleet fired first. Brilliant blue energy beams lanced across space, striking swarm shields. The aliens had adapted to Council weapons long ago. Most shots simply dispersed harmlessly. Then the humans opened fire. The first thing Thexvia noticed was that human weapons were loud. The railguns produced massive electromagnetic pulses that lit up every sensor. The missiles left bright chemical trails. And the nuclear weapons, did they just detonate a fusion bomb in open space? Vryn's beak hung open in shock. A swarm cruiser, its shields useless against the physical shockwave, tumbled out of formation. Its organic hull was scorched and torn. Impossible, Lyris whispered, her lights flickering in confusion. But it wasn't impossible. It was happening. The human ships moved closer to the swarm, far closer than any Council captain would dare. They fired again and again, their primitive kinetic weapons punching through shields designed to stop energy beams. A human destroyer took a direct hit from a bioplasma weapon. Its hull exploded in a shower of debris. USS Ranger is down. Chen's voice remained calm despite the loss. All ships pattern Echo 7. Target their big ones. The remaining human ships accelerated. They were heading straight for a swarm carrier, the largest ship in the enemy formation. They're going to ram it, Vryn said in horror. But at the last moment, the human ships fired everything they had. Hundreds of missiles streaked toward the carrier. The swarm's point defenses destroyed most of them, but not all. 3 nuclear warheads hit the carrier's midsection. The massive bioship shuddered, its organic structure unable to handle the explosive force. It began to break apart. The swarm, sensing the danger, retreated into slipspace. In less than 10 minutes, they were gone. Thexvia stared at the empty space where the battle had been. Around her, the war room was silent. Get me Captain Chen, she said quietly. Chen's face appeared on screen. He was human, with dark hair and eyes that had seen too much violence. Behind him, his bridge crew worked frantically to repair damage. Yes, Admiral? Who are you people? Thexvia asked. Chen smiled, but it was a sad smile. We're humans, Admiral. We come from a world that tried to kill us for 3 million years. We learned how to fight back. When you sent that probe, when we heard your call for help, we couldn't ignore it. That's not who we are. Thexvia realized something terrifying in that moment. The Council had invited an apex predator to a fight, and she had no idea if that was going to save them or doom them all. Commander Sarah Okonkwo stood in the tactical briefing room of the USS Indomitable, studying the holographic star map. Around her, Council officers from 6 different species watched with barely concealed skepticism. They had agreed to this joint planning session, but their body language said they didn't expect much from the primitive humans. Admiral Thexvia clicked her mandibles softly. Commander Okonkwo, the swarm will return within 2 standard days. They always do. We need a defensive strategy, Sarah smiled. It was the smile that had terrified insurgents back in the Congo campaign. With respect, Admiral, we don't do defensive. A reptilian officer named Seth hissed in disapproval. Your species has been in space for 30 of your years. We have fought the swarm for 47 cycles. You cannot possibly— We've been fighting wars for 10,000 years, Sarah interrupted calmly. We've gotten pretty good at it. She manipulated the hologram, zooming in on the asteroid field near the Keldrith system's 4th planet. The swarm uses predictable patterns. They arrive, they form up, they advance. It's efficient for a hive mind, but it's also predictable. The swarm adapts, Thexvia said. They learn from each battle. So do we, Admiral. But we learn faster. Sarah highlighted several asteroids. We position our ships here, here, and here. We let the swarm come to us. An ambush? Commander Vryn's feathers ruffled with interest. The Council has tried ambushes. The swarm's sensors detect our energy signatures. Then we turn them off, Sarah said simply. The room erupted in protest. A floating jellyfish-like creature pulsed with alarm colors. Impossible. Without power, ships drift. Crews die. This is suicide.
No, it's patience, Sarah corrected.
We power down to minimal life support. We drift like rocks. The swarm scans for active ships, not debris. Texevia studied Sarah with her compound eyes. You've done this before. The Arctic Campaign, 2089. We drifted in spacesuits for 18 hours, pretending to be wreckage. When the rebels came to scavenge, we took back 3 orbital stations. Sarah's voice was matter-of-fact, as if freezing in space was perfectly normal. The council officers looked at each other with growing unease. There's another problem, Iseth said. The swarm uses cyber warfare. Their hive mind can hack our ship systems during battle. It's caused many losses. Sarah's smile grew wider. They can't hack what doesn't exist. Our ships don't use networked AI. Every system is analog or isolated. Our weapons are mechanical. Our navigation is manual. Primitive, Seth muttered. Effective, Sarah corrected. Across the fleet, preparations began. It took the council officers time to accept the human methods. They were used to elegant solutions, to technology that solved every problem. The humans offered crude answers that somehow worked. Engineer Yuki Tanaka worked 18-hour shifts converting a cargo hauler into what he called a Mac cannon. The council engineers watched in confusion as he stripped away the ship's cargo bay and installed a magnetic acceleration tunnel. This is just a big rail. Gun, a moth-like council engineer. Observed? Exactly, Yuki said, welding another support beam. But this one fires tungsten rods the size of telephone poles. Kinetic energy doesn't care about energy shields. Telephone poles. The engineer's translator struggled with the term. Never mind. Help me align the magnetic coils. 2 days later, the swarm returned. This time they brought more ships. The biovessels dropped from slip space in perfect formation, pulsing with organic light. The swarm's hive mind coordinator, Zax Thul, surveyed the battlefield through 1,000 eyes. The council ships were there, positioned defensively around the inner planets. But the primitive newcomers were gone. Had they fled? Good. They were the anomaly, the unexpected variable. Without them, the council would fall within 10 engagements. The swarm advanced. ZX Thul felt the hive mind satisfaction. Everything was proceeding as calculated. The council ships were retreating as they always did. The war would continue its predictable pattern. Then the asteroids came alive. Human ships powered up from cold standby, their drives flaring like newborn stars. They had been drifting for 47 hours, crews rotating through minimal life support to conserve power. Now, Sarah commanded across the fleet. The ambush was chaos incarnate. Missiles launched from unexpected angles. Railgun rounds punched through swarm formations at relativistic speeds. The converted cargo hauler fired its massive tungsten rod, which passed through 3 swarm cruisers like a needle through cloth. Xthul recoiled in shock. This was not predictable. This was not calculated. The hive mind tried to hack the human systems, sending tendrils of digital warfare toward the primitive ships. But there was nothing to hack. The humans fought with mechanical switches and manual controls. It was like trying to infect a rock. Deploy the drones, Captain Chen ordered. Thousands of small objects scattered across the battlefield. The swarm's sensors identified them as unmanned attack drones. The hive mind reached out to subvert them, to turn them against their masters. But the drones had no AI. They followed simple programmed instructions: fly toward swarm ships and explode. That was all. No intelligence to corrupt. No systems to hack. Sexthul felt something new. Something the hive mind rarely experienced. Frustration. A council cruiser took damage, its shields failing under concentrated bioplasma fire. Immediately, 2 human destroyers moved to cover it, their point defense systems shooting down incoming projectiles. Why do they protect each other so fiercely? Fryn wondered aloud on the eternal resolve. Because that's what humans do. Texvia replied quietly. I reviewed their history files. They fight constantly among themselves, but when faced with an outside threat, they become one tribe. The battle raged for 2 hours. The swarm lost 23 ships. The humans lost 4. The council lost 2. But numbers weren't the important thing. What mattered was that for the first time in 47 cycles, the swarm retreated without accomplishing their objective. When the battlefield cleared, Sarah found herself in another briefing room, this time with many more council officers present. They looked at her with new eyes, not skeptical anymore. Now they looked afraid. Your tactics are... Texivia struggled for words. They're brutal. They're effective, Sarah said. There's a difference. You turned a cargo ship into a weapon, Seth said. You hid in asteroids for 2 days. You used suicide drones. We used what worked. An elderly council admiral, his tentacles gray with age, spoke from a holographic projection. We have fought wars for millennia, but we fight with honor. With rules. With dignity. Sarah's expression hardened. Admiral, we come from a world where nature gave us no dignity. Where survival meant eating or being eaten. Where winter killed the weak and summer brought plagues. We didn't have the luxury of fighting with honor. We fought to live. Is that why you're so good at killing? The elderly admiral asked. No, Sarah said quietly. We're good at killing because we've spent 10,000 years killing each other. Every trick, every tactic, every horror of war, we've tried it. We've perfected it. We've lived through it. And we've learned from it. She looked around the room at the alien faces. You come from garden worlds. Peaceful places where life was easy. We come from a world that tried to murder us every single day. That's not a boast. It's just the truth. Texivia was silent for a long moment. Can you teach us? Can you teach us to fight like you? Sarah nodded slowly. Yes, but you need to understand something first. Once you learn to fight like humans, you can't unlearn it. Once you see the galaxy the way we see it, as a place where survival is everything, you can't go back. Will it be enough to win? Fryn asked. It'll be enough to survive, Sarah said. And sometimes that's the same thing. Later that night, Sarah stood in the observation deck staring at the stars. Yuki joined her, carrying 2 bulbs of coffee. You scared them today, he said. I know. Do you think we're doing the right thing? Teaching them to be like us? Sarah was quiet for a moment. I think we're teaching them to survive. Whether that's right or wrong, she shrugged. The galaxy doesn't care about right or wrong. It cares about who lives and who dies. Dark philosophy. Earth philosophy, Sarah corrected. She took a sip of coffee. But maybe that's what they need right now. In the depths of space, the swarm's hive mind was learning too. It was studying the human tactics, and it was preparing to adapt. High Chancellor Mordith floated in the center of the Grand Council chamber, his translucent body rippling with concerned colors. Around him, representatives from 47 species watched the holographic recording for the 3rd time. On the screen, human ships tore through a swarm formation with terrifying efficiency. Nuclear weapons bloomed like deadly flowers. Kinetic rounds punched through bioships. And through it all, the humans pressed forward, never retreating, never showing fear. This is what we invited into our war, a representative from the aquatic collective gurgled through her water-filled chamber. These are not civilized beings. They're winning, countered a representative from the Silicon hegemony. We've been losing for 47 cycles. In 2 weeks, they've changed everything. Mordith silenced them with a pulse of authority. His species, the Telenthri, were natural telepaths. They were the Council's diplomats, their judges, their moral compass. And right now, Mordith was deeply troubled. The question before us is not whether humans are effective warriors, he said, his voice resonating through every translator. The question is, what have we unleashed upon the galaxy? The chamber doors opened. Dr. James Okafor walked in, accompanied by 2 human security officers. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes that had seen too much of the universe. He was humanity's xenoanthropologist, sent to help the Council understand his species. High Chancellor, Okafor said respectfully. You asked to see me. Dr. Okafor, please explain to this Council why your people are so proficient at violence. Okafor set down a portable holographic projector. I brought a presentation, may I? Mordith gestured his approval. The chamber lights dimmed. A blue-green world appeared in the center of the room. This is Earth, Okafor began. Our home. To understand humans, you must understand this planet. The image zoomed in, showing continents covered in green forests and brown deserts. Then the view changed, showing massive storms, erupting volcanoes, and sheets of ice covering half the world. Earth is what we call a death world, Okafor continued. The gravity is higher than most inhabited planets. The weather is violent and unpredictable. Every few thousand years, the climate shifts dramatically. Ice ages come and go. He switched to another image. A massive reptilian creature with teeth longer than a human arm. For most of Earth's history, humans were not the apex predator. We were prey. We were hunted by creatures that could run faster, bite harder, and see better than us. We survived not by being strong, but by being smart and working together. A council representative, a being made of living crystal, chimed with confusion. But your planet's predators are extinct. You hunted them all? Some, Okafor admitted. But most died from climate change. The same climate change that nearly killed us a dozen times. Imagine a world where every 10,000 years, everything you know is buried under ice or drowned by rising seas. The presentation showed human tribes huddled around fires, fighting against the cold. Then it showed them crossing vast oceans on primitive boats, settling new lands, adapting to new environments. We spread across every environment on Earth, Okafor said, from frozen tundra to burning deserts, from sea level to mountain peaks. We learned to survive anywhere because we had no choice. But this does not explain your violence toward each other, Mordith interjected. Your wars, your conflicts. Okafor's expression grew sad. No, it doesn't. For that, you need to understand scarcity. On Earth, resources were always limited. Food, water, land, there was never enough for everyone. Groups fought over these resources. Tribes became kingdoms. Kingdoms became nations. And nations fought wars. The hologram showed battles throughout human history. Ancient warriors with spears, medieval knights with swords, modern soldiers with guns, ships burning on oceans, cities destroyed by bombs. The council chamber was silent. Several representatives looked away, unable to watch. In our recorded history alone, we've fought approximately 14,000 wars, Okafor said quietly. Major wars, not counting smaller conflicts. We've developed weapons that can poison air, burn cities, and turn entire planets into radioactive wastelands. We've done things to each other that would make the swarm look merciful. Then why would we ever trust you? Demanded the Aquatic Collective's representative. You're admitting you're monsters. No, Okafor said firmly. We're survivors. There's a difference. Every horrible thing we've done taught us something. Every war showed us the cost of violence. And slowly, painfully, we learned. He changed the image to show Earth in recent centuries. We formed the United Nations. Then the Global Collective. We stopped fighting each other and turned our energy outward to space. We made a choice as a species. We decided that survival meant cooperation, a convenient decision when facing an external threat, Mordith observed. Yes, Okafor agreed. Absolutely. But that doesn't make it less real. When we found your probe, when we decoded your distress signal, we had a choice. We could ignore it and focus on our own expansion. Or we could help. We chose to help because that's who we decided to be. Mordith floated closer to Okafor. Dr. Okafor, my species communicates through telepathy. With your permission, I would like to establish a brief mental link. It would help me understand your people better. Okafor hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but be careful. Human minds are different. Mordith extended a tendril of consciousness toward Okafor's mind. For telepaths, this was natural as breathing. They would share thoughts, emotions, understanding. The moment contact was made, Mordith recoiled as if burned. Inside Okafor's mind, Mordith had seen everything. He had felt the weight of 10,000 years of warfare. The fear of the hunted, the rage of the desperate, the grief of the bereaved, but also the love, the loyalty, the fierce determination to protect others at any cost. Human minds held contradictions that should have been impossible. They could love and hate simultaneously. They could be gentle with children and brutal with enemies. They could create beautiful art while designing terrible weapons. They could mourn their dead while planning to kill more. How do you live with such chaos in your thoughts? Mordith gasped, his body flickering with distressed colors. Practice, Okafor said gently. Every human carries this. We call it the human condition. We're capable of great evil and great good, sometimes in the same moment. It's what makes us dangerous. It's also what makes us human. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives demanded that humans be expelled from the war zone immediately. Others argued that humanity was exactly what they needed to defeat the swarm. A young avian officer, Commander Vryn, stood from her observer's seat. May I speak? Mordith, still recovering from the mental link, gestured weakly for her to continue. I've been fighting alongside humans for 2 weeks now, Vryn said, her feathers ruffling nervously. I've watched them. I've studied them. And yes, they're terrifying, but they're also loyal. When my ship was damaged, 3 human vessels moved to protect us without orders. They risked their lives for people they barely knew. That's what we do, Okafor said simply. When someone needs help, we help. Even if it costs us. Why? Mordith asked. Why would evolution create beings so willing to sacrifice themselves? Because on Earth, the tribe that worked together survived. The loners died, so we evolved to care for our group, even at personal cost. We expanded that circle from family to tribe to nation to species. Now we're trying to expand it to include you. Another representative spoke up, a massive beetle-like creature. But you're teaching us your ways of war. You're making us more like you. Is that wise? Okafor met the creature's many eyes. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if spreading human methods is good for the galaxy. But I know this. The swarm doesn't care about your philosophy or your morals. They care about assimilating or destroying everything in their path. To fight them, you need to understand what we understand. Survival isn't pretty. It's brutal and ugly and unfair, but it's necessary. Mordith finally spoke again, his colors stabilized. I saw your mind, Dr. Okafor. I saw the darkness there. But I also saw hope. You believe we can win, I do. Why? Okafor smiled. Because humans never learned how to give up. It's not in our nature. When faced with extinction, we don't lay down and die. We fight, we adapt, we survive. And we'll teach you to do the same if you'll let us. The council voted. It wasn't unanimous. But by a margin of 32 to 15, they agreed to continue working with humanity. As Okafor left the chamber, Mordith called out to him. Dr. Okafor, one more question. Your species has suffered so much. You've endured so many horrors. Don't you ever want to rest? Okafor paused in the doorway. Every day, Chancellor. Every single day. But the universe doesn't care what we want. It only cares what we do, so we keep going. We keep fighting. We keep hoping, because that's what humans do. After he left, Mordith floated alone in the empty chamber, contemplating what he had seen in the human's mind. The council had made their decision. They had chosen to embrace the human way of war. He hoped it would be enough to save them. He feared what they might become in the process. Deep within the swarm's collective consciousness, Hive Queen Ixithara processed data from 17 consecutive defeats. Her massive form pulsed with bioluminescent patterns of calculation and growing concern. Around her, thousands of smaller, swarm entities worked in perfect synchronization, their minds linked to hers. The humans were the anomaly, the chaos in her perfect equations. She reviewed the most recent battle. Her forces had adapted, adding reinforced armor plating to defend against kinetic weapons. They had deployed point defense organisms specifically designed to intercept physical projectiles. It should have worked. The calculations were perfect, but the humans had changed their tactics. They used different weapons, different formations. They were unpredictable in a way the hive mind couldn't process. Individual initiative. That was the problem. Each human ship operated independently while somehow maintaining coordination. It was impossible, yet it was happening. Ixithara made a decision. She would commit more resources, more ships. Overwhelming force was the answer. Numbers would defeat chaos. The swarm began to gather its strength. Captain Marcus Chen stared at the tactical display with exhausted eyes. He hadn't slept properly in 4 days. Around him, his bridge crew worked at their stations, their faces showing the same fatigue. Another swarm attack, Captain, reported Lieutenant Kenji Sato from the fighter bay. They're hitting the supply convoy near the third moon. Chen pulled up the display. 12 swarm cruisers were engaging 6 council transport ships. The humans were too far away to help in time. Negative, Captain, Sato said. They'll be destroyed before we arrive. Chen slammed his fist on the armrest. They had won 5 battles in 3 weeks. But the swarm kept coming. For every ship they destroyed, 2 more appeared. Sir, his communication officer called out. Admiral Thexvia is requesting an immediate command conference. The conference room was crowded. Admiral Thexvia stood at the center, her usually calm demeanor replaced by visible agitation. Commander Vryn looked equally distressed. Even Commander Okonkwo seemed worried. The swarm is adapting faster than we anticipated, Thexvia began without preamble. They've reinforced their armor. They've improved their point defenses. Our recent casualties are 3 times what they were last week. Chen nodded grimly. We've noticed, They're learning from each engagement. More than that, Okonkwo added, pulling up data files. They're predicting our tactics. Look at this. She showed footage from yesterday's battle. We tried the asteroid ambush again. They were ready. They knew where we'd hide. How? Vryn asked. We changed our approach vector. We powered down earlier. Because we're becoming predictable, Chen realized. We're teaching them patterns. The hive mind is treating warfare like a math problem. They're solving us. A heavy silence filled the room. Can we change tactics again? Thexivia asked. We can, Chen said slowly. But every time we do, we get less effective until the new tactics are refined. Meanwhile, they're learning. Eventually, they'll adapt to everything we do. Then what do we do? Vryn's feathers were pressed flat against her body, a sign of fear in her species. Chen looked at Okonkwo. She met his eyes and nodded slightly. They were thinking the same thing. We teach you something new, Chen said. Something the swarm can't adapt to. What could possibly? Thexvia began. Chaos, Okonkwo interrupted. True chaos. Not just different tactics, but unpredictable decision-making. She pulled up a new display showing human fighter squadron tactics. Watch this. Lieutenant Sato's wing from yesterday's engagement. The hologram showed 6 human fighters engaging swarm interceptors. Their movements seemed random. Ships broke formation for no apparent reason. They attacked from impossible angles. One fighter flew in a corkscrew pattern that served no tactical purpose. This is madness, Thexivia said. They're violating every principle of coordinated warfare. Exactly, Chen said with a tired smile. Sato's squadron uses jazz improvisation as their tactical philosophy. Each pilot makes individual decisions based on feel, not on pre-planned strategies. They coordinate through instinct and experience, not through orders. Jazz? Vryn's translator struggled with the word. It's a form of music, Okonkwo explained. Musicians play together, but they improvise. They make it up as they go, responding to each other in real time. No plan, no script, pure creativity. And it works? Thexvia asked, looking at the battle footage again. Sato's wing has the highest kill ratio in the fleet, Chen confirmed. The swarm can't predict what they'll do, because they don't know themselves until they do it. Vryn studied the display with new interest. You're saying we need to learn to be unpredictable. We're saying you need to learn to think like individuals while fighting as a team, Okonkwo corrected. The swarm's greatest strength is their hive mind. Perfect coordination, but it's also their weakness. They can't understand individual initiative. They can't predict chaos. Over the next week, human pilots began training council crews in their unorthodox methods. It was not going well. No, no, no! Lieutenant Sato shouted in frustration, as a council pilot executed a perfect textbook maneuver. You're thinking too much, stop calculating and just feel it. The pilot, a reptilian named Siseth, hissed in confusion. Feel what? This is a spacecraft, not a living thing. Your ship is an extension of your body, Sato explained for the 10th time. Stop treating it like a tool. Make it part of you. Then react. Don't think. That makes no sense, Seth protested. I know, Sato said with a grin. Welcome to human logic. Slowly, painfully, some council pilots began to understand. Vryn proved to be particularly adept. Her avian instincts for 3-dimensional movement translated well to unpredictable flying. Good, Sato called out as Vryn executed a spiraling attack run that had no basis in tactical doctrine. That's it. Now trust your wingmate to cover you without asking them to. But how will they know? They'll know because they're paying attention, because they're thinking like you're thinking. That's the magic. That's what the swarm can't do. Meanwhile, Chen and Thexvia were having their own problems coordinating their fleets. Your ships need to stop asking permission for every action, Chen said bluntly during a command meeting. We follow proper protocols, Thexvia replied, her antenna twitching with irritation. Chain of command exists for a reason. Yes, and that chain is too slow. By the time you approve an action, the opportunity is gone. Trust your captains, let them make decisions. And if they make wrong decisions, Then they learn from their mistakes, Chen said. That's what we do. We give our officers authority to act. Sometimes they screw up, but more often they save lives by reacting fast. Thexvia was quiet for a long moment. This is very difficult for us. We're not accustomed to such disorder. I know, Chen said more gently, but disorder is what wins against the swarm. They're too orderly, too perfect, that's their flaw. The test came 3 days later. A massive swarm force dropped from slipspace near the Kaldreth system's primary shipyard. 43 bioships, including 3 heavy carriers. All ships engage, Thexvia commanded. The combined fleet met the swarm head-on. Council ships fought with their usual precision, but now their captains had authority to improvise. When openings appeared, they took them without asking permission. Human ships scattered across the battlefield, like wild seeds, each following its own path yet somehow working together. And Sato's experimental wing, now including 6 council pilots who had embraced the chaos, tore through swarm formations like a hurricane. I see an opening on the left carrier, Vryn called out over the comm. She didn't wait for approval. She just dove, her human-trained wingmates following on instinct. Their attack was a beautiful disaster. Ships spiraled and dodged in patterns that made no tactical sense. But they were impossible to predict, impossible to intercept. The carrier took critical damage. Ixthara felt confusion ripple through the hive mind. The enemies were not following patterns anymore. They were not predictable. Every calculation failed. Every adaptation was countered by something new. How could they fight what they couldn't predict? For the first time in her existence, Ixthara felt something the swarm rarely experienced: doubt. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the swarm retreated, leaving behind 19 destroyed ships. The combined fleet had lost 8 vessels, 4 council ships, 4 human ships. In the aftermath, Chen found Sato in the fighter bay. The young pilot was helping repair a damaged council fighter alongside its grateful pilot, Saseth. Good work out there, Chen said. Sato grinned. They're learning, Captain. Slowly, but they're learning. Saseth pulled off a reverse spiral that I didn't even know he had in him. I did not know either, Saseth admitted, his reptilian features showing something that might have been a smile. I simply acted, as Sato taught me. It was frightening and exhilarating. Chen nodded. That's the human way. Welcome to chaos, Saseth. Later that night, Chen stood with Thexvia in the observation deck of the Eternal Resolve. They watched the stars in comfortable silence. We're changing them, Thexvia said quietly. Your methods, your chaos. We're teaching my people to think like humans. Is that bad? Chen asked. I don't know yet, Thexvia admitted. But I know this. We're starting to win. For the first time. In 47 cycles, the swarm is retreating more than advancing. Then we're doing something right. The alarm started at 400 ship time. Captain Marcus Chen was already awake, staring at star charts in his quarters when the call came through. Captain to the bridge. Emergency. He ran through the corridors of the USS Indomitable, his heart already racing. The crew members he passed had fear in their eyes. Whatever was coming, the sensors had given them advance warning. The bridge was chaos. Every screen showed red alerts. Every officer was talking at once. Report, Chen commanded. Lieutenant Sato turned from his console, his face pale. Sir, massive slipspace signatures. The swarm is coming. All of it. The main screen showed the sensor data. Chen's stomach dropped. Over 200 signatures. And one of them was enormous, dwarfing everything else on the display. That's the World Eater, Okonkwo said quietly, appearing beside him. Swarm Dreadnought. Intelligence reports say it's never been deployed in this sector before. How big? Chen asked. 12 kilometers long. Bioorganic hull capable of regenerating damage. Carries enough swarm organisms to consume a small moon. She paused. And it has a weapon that can crack planets. Chen opened fleet-wide communications. All ships, this is Captain Chen. Battle stations. Prepare for Admiral Thexvia's voice cut in. Captain Chen, we need to retreat immediately. Those numbers are impossible. Chen looked at the display again. The combined human and council fleet had 43 ships. The swarm was bringing 201. Admiral, if we retreat, the swarm takes this system. Then the next one. Then the next. We make our stand here. It's suicide. Maybe, Chen admitted. But it's our suicide. Commander Okonkwo, I need options. Okonkwo was already working on calculations. We can't win conventionally. We need to take out the World Eater. Without it, the swarm fleet might break. How do we kill something that big? Okonkwo pulled up a tactical schematic. There's a theory. Untested. If we could get a ship with an active slip space drive inside the World Eater's mass, the spatial distortion would tear it apart from the inside. A suicide run, Chen said. Yes. The Council will never approve it, Thexivia said over the comm. It violates every law of warfare. It's what humans do when there's no other option, Chen interrupted. Admiral, I'm not asking your permission. I'm asking for your trust. There was a long pause. Then Thexivia spoke, her voice heavy with resignation. You're right. We make our stand here. All ships prepare for battle, and may whatever gods we believe in have mercy on us all. The swarm arrived like a wave of organic nightmares. Bioships of every size poured from slip space, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns, and behind them came the World Eater. It was uglier than Chen had imagined. The massive dreadnought looked like a diseased whale crossed with a deep-sea horror. Its hull was mottled with tumorous growths, and its weapons were orifices that wept bioplasma. All ships a scatter formation, Chen commanded. Don't give them a concentrated target. The battle began. Council ships engaged with precision strikes targeting swarm vessels with coordinated fire. Human ships dove into the chaos using their unpredictable tactics to keep the enemy off balance. But there were too many. For every swarm ship they destroyed, 3 more took its place. The World Eater moved slowly toward the planet Kaldrith Prime, its planet cracker weapon beginning to charge with sickly green light. Okonkwo, Chen said quietly. Prepare the Indomitable for slip space transition. Captain, that's your order? She met his eyes, understanding what he was planning. That's my order. Evacuate all non-essential personnel to the escape pods. Emergency launch. Now. Across the bridge, officers stared at him in shock. Sir, Sato protested. You can't. Lieutenant, that's an order. Get to your fighter. Lead the evacuation escort. Not without you, sir. Chen grabbed Sato's shoulders. Kenji, listen to me. You need to survive this. You need to teach them what we taught you. The war isn't over. Someone needs to carry on. Tears formed in Sato's eyes, but he nodded and saluted. Sir, it's been an honor. The honor was mine, Lieutenant. Now go. The bridge crew evacuated reluctantly. Soon only Chen and Okonkwo remained. You don't have to stay, Chen said to her. Okonkwo smiled. Someone needs to navigate. Your slip space calculations are terrible. Fair point. They worked in silence, programming the final approach. Around them, the battle raged. Chen watched as the Council ship Harmonious Dawn took a direct hit and broke apart. He saw Lieutenant Vrin's fighter squadron make a desperate attack run on a swarm carrier. Chen, Thexivia's voice came through, strained and desperate. What are you doing? Your ship is accelerating toward the World Eater. I'm ending this, Admiral. One way or another. You'll die. Probably, Chen admitted. But the World Eater will die too. That's an acceptable trade. It's not acceptable. Thexivia's voice cracked with emotion. You're teaching us to be like you and now you're leaving? That's not fair. Chen smiled despite everything. Admiral, make sure they remember this. Make sure the Council knows what we did here. And make sure they know we chose to help. We could have stayed home. We chose to come. Before Thexivia could respond, Chen cut the comm. Ready? He asked Okonkwo. Ready. It's been good knowing you, Marcus. Likewise, Sarah. The Indomitable accelerated toward the World Eater, dodging fire from dozens of swarm ships. The dreadnought was beginning to notice, turning its weapons toward the approaching human ship. Engines at maximum. Slip space drive charging? Okonkwo called out. Bioplasma bolts struck the Indomitable's shields. Hull plating melted. Explosions rocked the ship. Almost there, Chen muttered, hands steady on the controls. Suddenly, energy beams from Council ships swept across their path, clearing away the swarm interceptors. Thexivia's voice came through. All ships cover the Indomitable. Give them a path. The combined fleet threw everything they had at the swarm, creating a corridor of fire. Human ships and Council ships fought side by side, their crews finally truly united. We're through, Chen said. 5 seconds to impact. Activating slip space drive. The Indomitable struck the World Eater's hull at full speed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the slipspace drive activated inside the dreadnought's mass. Reality screamed. The spatial distortion tore through the World Eater like a knife through tissue. The massive bioship convulsed, its hull rupturing in a dozen places. Green blood and biomatter sprayed into space. The dreadnought's death was not quick. It thrashed and writhed, its weapons firing randomly as its systems failed. But it was dying, and every swarm organism could feel it through the hive mind. Hive Queen Ixthera felt her carefully ordered universe collapse. The World Eater's destruction sent shockwaves through the entire swarm consciousness. Ships lost coordination. Formations broke apart. And then the humans broadcasted something across all frequencies. Music, specifically human war music. Drums pounding. Guitars screaming. Voices shouting defiance in a dozen languages. The hive mind, already in chaos from the World Eater's death, couldn't process the noise. It was meaningless, random, chaotic. It was everything the swarm wasn't, and it was terrifying. All ships advance, Thexvia commanded, her voice filled with something new. Something human. Push them back. The swarm broke. For the first time in the war, they retreated in complete disorder. Ships fled into slipspace without coordination, without formation. The perfect hive mind had shattered. The battle was over. In the debris field where the World Eater had died, sensors detected a faint signal. An emergency pod beacon. It's coming from inside the wreckage, Vryn reported, hardly daring to hope. Could it be? Thexvia dispatched recovery teams immediately. They found Captain Marcus Chen and Commander Sarah Okonkwo in a severely damaged escape pod, barely alive, but breathing. At the last second, Okonkwo had calculated an emergency ejection that gave them a slim chance of survival. Chen opened his eyes in the medical bay 3 days later. Thexvia was sitting beside his bed, her antenna drooping with exhaustion. You're alive, she said simply. Apparently, Chen croaked. The World Eater? Destroyed. The swarm has retreated from this entire sector. We've won, Captain. We've actually won. Chen closed his eyes, relief flooding through him. Casualties? 17 ships lost, many damaged, but we saved Kaldrith Prime. We saved the entire system. Worth it, Chen whispered. Over the following weeks, as the fleet recovered and repairs were made, the Council convened for a historic vote. The proceedings were broadcasted across all Council space. High Chancellor Mordith floated before the Assembly, his body pulsing with solemn colors. We have seen what humanity can do. We have learned from them, fought beside them, and bled with them. The question before us now is, do we invite them to join the Galactic Council as full members? The vote was not unanimous. There were still those who feared humanity's violent nature, but the majority had seen something else, humanity's willingness to sacrifice for others. The final count was 73 in favor, 19 against. Humanity was granted full council membership. When Captain Chen was well enough to attend the ceremony, he stood beside Admiral Thexvia on the council floor. She presented him with the Star of Unity, the council's highest honor. You taught us to fight, Thexvia said publicly. But more importantly, you taught us why we fight. Not for glory, not for conquest, but to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That night, Chen found himself in the same observation deck where he'd spent so many quiet moments.